Hi there, and welcome to the Creative Operations Podcast. I'm your host, Kevin Groom, and in this podcast, we'll be talking with creative operations leaders in all kinds of industries, from franchising to finance, from healthcare to hospitality and beyond. We'll be looking to uncover best practices and to see trends that are coming to help you keep your creative operations on brand and on budget at the same time. Enjoy. Well, welcome everybody to this episode of the Creative Operations Podcast. I'm your host, Kevin Groom, and today I'm really pleased to have with us Ben Prager, the founder CEO of Prager Creative. And we're here really to talk about the agency and client relationship, and both as it applies to in-house groups and external groups and all the human and technology factors that come into play in those kinds of relationships. So Ben, welcome and thank you for joining us today.
Thank you, Kevin.
You betcha. The listeners on this podcast love to hear about journeys into creative operations. So tell us first a little bit about how you got into this crazy business, and especially with sort of an emphasis on the creative production, and how you've seen things changing over the years.
Wow. Well, thanks again for having me on the podcast. Just a very, very brief history is that my career in marketing, Marcom, started as a designer, then ventured into the world of corporate branding, and then basically was, doing freelance work for a myriad of different types of companies, everything from, more design studios, direct marketing, larger agencies, until I found myself with an interesting opportunity to start an internal creative department at a production company, a large commercial printer, and they wanted to add on creative department services. So adding on this services and building this internal team where we were even, we were repositioning the company, then going out and gaining our own clients based on, the creative team's experience plus the history of the company, which had been around for 20, 30 years or something, really turned me on to the excitement of running my own business and starting my own business. And obviously, presenting and selling to clients and managing clients in that new relationship from that aspect, really learned a lot there. And just reached a certain point in, I would say, more of like a life change where my wife and I were, deciding to have children and things like that, prompted me to kind of quote unquote go out on my own. And from there, I, started gaining clients from my industry experience within the financial world, within the healthcare world, regulated markets, and, started networking with people I knew, started approaching all types of people I did not know, made new friends. And that was we're going on about 11 years in business.
Congratulations. The first 5 years I know are the toughest. So when you make it over that, you really are, a going concern, and in a market that is tough to be a going concern in. So that's a great overview. Let me ask you a couple questions about the agency client relationship as you've seen it. We've over the years, and I like you, I've been around this world a good bit of time, but we've seen all kinds of different models. We've seen client retainers, we've seen project work, we've seen time and materials, we've seen the old media commission. As you look at the client agency relationship, how has it been changing in recent years, especially with all the new tasks that creative leaders really find on their plates?
Boy. Well, I would say, the one thing I hear a lot, we're a small agency, by the way, based in New York City. And, we have our core team in place and then can expand from, to outside resources. And the great part about that is that, we can find the best, not find necessarily, but, rarely am I going out and trying to scramble to find a new person for the team, but I can call upon partners that I've worked with for years and say, okay, here's the new type of client, here's the industry, here's what they're looking for, and pull that exact same, that experience and that person, both on, professional level, how their personality is going to fit on the project. And honestly, years and years ago, I think a lot of companies, that was kind of unheard of. The fact that all of your staff and all of your people was not there and kind of quote unquote under one roof. I know there's also a lot of talk, and it seems like a selling point to me, but it is true. And I'm surprised to hear it when I've multiple times I've talked to people and they've said, one thing that has changed with our business model is that we don't want to work with, say, a certain type of agency, usually a mid to larger size agency that cannot be flexible to how we want to work. Types of models that cannot be flexible, where there might be layers of what clients see as unnecessary. They get tired of working with and frustrated, and sometimes it slows down the process. And I've actually talked to, I would say like larger potential clients that have said, we're looking for somebody who's totally different. So that I would say has been one way that the relationship has changed that I can think of, and really stands out to me, because it is the way we're based and the way we work with clients is that because of the structure I just mentioned and because of our size and also the services we offer, we're able to a degree say, okay, this is what the client needs. This is how we would work together. And there is going to be a very high level of flexibility to suiting each one of our clients in the way they want to work, to the best of their needs to see the best results.
It's interesting that, in the software world, we talk a lot about creating business models that scale easily, and that sort of leads you to a one-size-fits-all. In the creative agency world, this notion of being able to change your business model to adapt to the clients is something that, even after all this time, is super attractive to folks.
Can I interrupt for 1 second? Sometimes, it can be a double-edged sword, honestly, and it is. It sounds glamorous and but when you say, oh, I can do anything and I can, whatever you're looking for, my company can flex and be adaptable. But at a certain point, to do that, it is a challenge, and it does involve a lot of thinking. And also over the years, as you get deeper into this and figuring out really, is this the right type of relationship for me? And, is it going to be, exciting, fun to work on? Is it going to be, again, does it fit the agency? Does it fit just the workflow from here's what we're going to deliver. Here's what the budget is. Here's going to be the day-to-day management. What are they expecting? And so on.
Yeah, it's when you think about the creative production work, especially, let's say, in broadcast, which has always been, a place that people love to go, but where it's really risky because your costs are high. They can change radically, from one project to the next. Estimating is always an art more than it is a science.
Yep.
And meanwhile, the client, these days, at least, what we hear a lot is the client is starting to clamp down on budgets and creating tighter and tighter boxes into which that creative product has to fit. So, that notion of flexibility is really getting harder and harder to exercise across all these different things that an agency would be expected to do.
To interrupt for just one more second, that's one thing I would say that where clients have seen a real benefit from us, where most of our clients come to us, seeking one thing. That can be full service agency of record, where we're doing everything from, developing an annual strategy, managing a budget, and then rolling out whatever they need, and whatever strategically makes sense for them to make best use of their budget. All the way down to a client who's coming to us for, say, a digital campaign or, some type of TV or video or over-the-top TV. And by the nature of how we work together and by the nature of what we do, generally what I've found is that, or many times what I've found is that when you have an agency model like this and that relationship is good and you're delivering quality and delivering on your promise, when people invest or companies invest in one type of marketing, that generally naturally expands. Especially when they know, wow, here's a company that offers a multiple, range of services. They are flexible. We've come in, we started working with them, and look at everything else we can do. Why would I go somewhere else? So in one way, I think there's a little bit more freedom in the type of thinking rather than say, here's what you're kind of boxed into, and it might be a challenge to expand beyond that.
Yeah, it's really exciting too, because, with every client relationship, every day is the potential for new business, because you're expanding across their needs and across your capabilities, which I'm sure keeps things exciting.
Yeah.
Let me turn to another thing that we've heard a lot, more and more these days. Clients that you encounter have their own either fully developed, partially developed, really mature MarTech stacks. And as an agency, the responsibility for either providing inputs into those technology platforms or perhaps for managing them is, becoming more and more a part of your agency remit. Fair to say?
Yes.
Question for you, though, that I wanted to ask, because you deal with a lot of different clients, and so I would think a lot of different technology stacks. What are the challenges for you guys as a team? Do you try to run things for clients and get them to consolidate on a relatively consistent set of tools? Or do you find yourself just developing skill sets across a huge range of platforms, or something in between?
The services we deliver, being so customized to each client, we don't even try and, we figure it out, but it's not like we go in from the get-go saying, here's our model. For some clients, it's completely, we're managing everything, if you will, managing the workflow, managing, stats and versus some clients just want, here's what you're great at. Here's what you're not, that we're not good at. We're very good at production and management too. We pride ourselves on that. And for a lot of clients, that's an incredible service. Sometimes, believe it or not, that type of management and managing the marketing is, what I've seen, equally as important as what you're delivering. As far as like a creative goes, it's just such a it's such a huge weight to lift, off the shoulders of someone at a company. But other clients they want something very, very specific, where we're not managing any of that type of technology or production. Hopefully that's a fair answer.
Yeah, it's a very fair answer. You know what? I am always amazed, especially when you talk about small teams as opposed to huge shops, right? The breadth of skills and the familiarity and the comfort you have to get up to speed quickly for whatever that client's environment might be. Over here, you got somebody who's using Slack and HubSpot and et cetera, et cetera. And over here, you got somebody who's using, Microsoft Teams and SharePoint for everything. And you guys as an agency have to be comfortable in both those environments, and seamlessly so.
The range honestly does not even stop there. Yeah. The range comes from people who don't want to make that shift. Even clients, who are still, I want to do something on an email thread and we're going to keep exchanging files, versus somebody who is just communicating via, we use Monday a lot. I'm sure people know that, that product, just purely, like that's, I've gone into relationships where that's been one of the first three questions. And even, I would say it's interesting, even with clients that have a larger marketing department, even individuals within that department might want to work in different ways.
Sure.
So that almost, there are people on the client side who are communicating and working directly with one another. And you've got one person who is embracing that type of technology, and another person, exact counterparts, who wants to do it a different way. So, it's something that's top of mind.
It's interesting. It brings me to the talent question. You were talking about the fact that you guys as a small team can kind of burst to the areas of expertise that you need. But it sounds like one of the areas of expertise everybody has to have all the time is this ability to adapt and morph to whatever the client's kind of relationship might be. It makes you a little bit of a shapeshifter. How do you find talent like that? I used to think of the classic account manager in one way. It's a new job entirely now these days, isn't it?
Let me just back up. I run my business in a model that has been successful, to what I feel, or what I've seen to be successful. I do constantly think about, and especially as I've grown over the last couple year decade, what if I were to go to a model where I said there is no shifting? This is what we do. And, say to a client, or within, when we're filling out or getting invited, say to the next round of an RFP or something, here's how we operate. So I don't want to say it's not, I don't know, it may be a better way to operate. And people do operate like that. And that alleviates the question that you just asked. I have yet to, I tried to a degree, like I said, but it's not, I know agencies that, or, have heard stories about, well, one of the first couple questions is here, this is our minimum budget. We don't want to talk to you unless you do this. And here's here's our structure. And this is how we do things. And here's a chart. And if you don't want to work like that, we don't want to work with you. So I'm sorry, what was the question again? I remember that was a good intro.
Oh, it really had to do with talent, right? And so with your flexible model, it seems to me you're looking for folks that kind of I think it's called a black swan, right? A person who's adept in a lot of different ways and can learn fast and seamlessly.
It's hard. It's hard. And plenty of times I would say, the best talent for one reason, or myself and my team are usually gauging the talent that is going to join us, just has not worked out. Someone who might seem like like somebody who's going to be amazing and changes, but I always try what seems, I would say, comes across as great talent, or who could be, is usually someone with a diverse background who has done multiple things at multiple different agencies, or multiple, even multiple different types of companies. When you see things like someone who switched from a project manager role into a copywriter or a creative director or art director role, that stands out, someone also, who understands how to ascertain, I would say, and judge, I don't want to say issues, but, here are situations where I'm not necessarily, again, like it's not, where I'm not just doing one single task in this bucket, but somebody who is going to be able to, okay, here's maybe what somebody is asking for, or here's a question or whatnot. And I know how to think about it beyond what the constraints are. And that's really critical at a small agency, if you will, and I've seen that from, over the course of my career.
It's a great argument for a liberal arts education. I'll just make that plug, the ability to morph, adapt, keep on learning. It sounds to me like, that.
Yeah, you have to, honestly, I mean, aside from that, what I've seen is, passion. It trumps all, very quickly, what people are passionate about. When I'm talking to people, I am very honest about, here's what we do. Here's what you may not like. Here's what you will like. Here's what you may get out of it. Because, over the course of even before starting my career, when I was at starting an internal department, that's what it's not, I see a lot of companies or hear about, I should say, here's the glamorous side of working here, if you will. Whereas I try, and people have actually told me that sometimes I actually paint a negative picture about what a role might be like. So, but point being, that if somebody has that passion and really likes what they do or enjoys the company where they're working, a lot of the skills behind that are, if you will, trainable, or they will pick up.
Yeah, I got it. Well, let me turn to that issue of passion. In looking at your website and your guys' focus on branding and strategy, I wanted to ask you sort of a broader term kind of question. Branding and the challenge of branding as it exists today, as it existed when you really began your career, right? And how you see it unfolding in the next 10 years, let's say, or as far as you can see. How is it changing? For example, is brand more or less important at a time when, the competition is never more than a click away, when media types are multiplying like mushrooms? Is brand integrity, brand consistency more important? Adaptability more important? How do you guys see that sort of strategy question from a high level?
Well, I believe it's actually that consideration is one of the things that we do rather well for some clients, especially given my team's background and given my background, is that we're whatever challenge we're going to approach it from many different angles where, years ago, there was a big division between here's brand and here's advertising and whatnot, and here's media. And they were, as you say, like slices in this pie. And many times they were too segmented, they were too, kept way apart. And it is brand consistency is, I would say, more critical than ever. But what has to be considered is how do you, and it's a big consideration and should be thought about all the time. How do you keep that fresh and adaptable for all the places your brand has to be consistent in, be it from, I guess, billboards all the way down to, tiny graphics on, social media.
Yeah.
That I would say from a visual standpoint is, what you're talking about. But then also, obviously, I would say what's more important than ever is what your things like your voice, your tone, and what you're talking about and how that translates into different types of media. Because, it goes without saying, everybody, if, you're going to be having one conversation here, a different type of conversation here, whether it ranges from, traditional media to social to digital, whatever. And when people come to your website, that has to be consistent, but it's not enough anymore to rely on, okay, here it's consistent and it's cookie cutter and it's going to work A, B, C, and D. All of those places, you have to really consider your brand, as in, here's a unique place for my brand to stand out. Here's an opportunity to carry this over. But again, the challenging part is really keeping that consistency. But it's having all of these places to talk and have your brand be present. There's a great opportunity when you can keep it consistent, and a great opportunity to be more fresh and relevant than ever before.
That was an awesome summation. So we've hit the 20-minute mark. So I just want to say that, every once in a while in a conversation, you can hear sort of the pull quote. And when you said brand consistency is more critical than ever, even at a time when a lot of folks are thinking maybe it's not, maybe promotion and discounting is supposed to drive things more today than ever, the fact that consistency, no matter what the multiplying medium types might be, is more important than ever. That was the pull quote that I heard. So it's a great place.
It's easier. Sorry. Just one more thing. It's easier than ever to lose control, and you won't realize you've lost that control until it's gone.
That was awesome. I love that one too. Now I don't know which one to use. Listen,
well, I work with clients that's their. It's like they don't. And again, it's a consideration. I've been wrong about this from time to time. Where they want their brand to change faster than ever, or they want to change things, what they're saying out in the marketplace faster than ever. And so even balancing that is, like just from what we're going to recommend and whatnot. Okay, well, how you want to go exponentially far, but where is the balance between wanting, or doing that versus having the consistency, if that makes sense.
Oh, it makes tons of sense. Ben, I want to say that we're fielding a little creative study right now. It's probably going to take about 6 months for us to get the data in, but we're looking at the period of time between brand refreshes across over 200 different brands. We're asking folks to tell us, when's the last time you had what we tend to think of as brand refresh? When's the next time? And we're trying to get a sense of, it looks to us like that time between brand refreshes is coming down pretty steadily across a bunch of different industries and across a bunch of different sizes of organizations too, multi-location, single location. So I would love to have you come back and talk with us when we've got some of that data in, because it sounds to me like your experience with customers is going to be a great way to set this data in a context. So would you be willing to come back?
Absolutely. Yeah, I think, sometimes when I see different messaging in the marketplace and changes in, again, whether it's like the corporate branding, a logo and a position statement versus, the communications, be it the advertising or marketing, it's like, was this change for the sake of change? And did someone rush into this? Was it a smart decision? Just from my own, evaluation, if you will, putting myself in, okay, I'm going to forget I work in marketing, or try and forget that. And then, what is this about? How does it resonate with me? And, what's it, like what does it look like a shotgun reaction to, oh, we need to change because somebody else changed, or do we need to stand our ground? Because just as quickly as what may seem like those opportunities come and go, it is a lot of times it may be easier for an organization to say, hey, let's change, versus, what the harder decision might be to stay, hey, let's stay the course, and how do we adapt rather than change?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and sometimes we see a lot champion change, and the CMO tenure issue, which has been around this whole industry for a long, long time, continues to drop. It's under 18 months now, and the relationship between agencies is shortened too. All of those seem to argue for change for the sake of change, and so being that voice in the wilderness that says, "Hey, the brand has a foundation that we want to hang on to. Let's evolve. Let's not just switch." Those are conversations that I think are really fascinating to this entire audience. So we'll get that data, we'll put it in front of you, and it'll be a great platform for us to have a second conversation.
Awesome.
All right.
That sounds
Listen,
great.
let me say thank you for joining us, and everybody stay tuned, because the next episode that's coming up, we'll be talking more about MarTech with the folks from Sprout Loud. So that's our next episode. So Ben, thank you very much for joining us, and we'll talk soon.